Travis here again. Today I'm going to be starting a new video game series where we review the history of every video game I make a video about, and I tell you pretty much like a review in my own personal opinion, well, like an honest perspective of like the game, what to expect. So you know what the game's about, because there's a lot of games out there that you'll probably never hear about that exist, or they're just underrated. But today we're going to be looking at a game that has been localized, and it's kind of like a really interesting case of how it became what it was, because it inspired like a lot of other series. But of course we're talking about like Tales of Phantasia for the Super Famicom, as well as the remakes and the pretty much, you know, so the Super Famicom, the PlayStation, the Game Boy Advance, the PlayStation Portable, which in my opinion is probably the best one. And then they have the iOS version, but a lot of people didn't really say that was the best one because, I mean, if they would have came out with a controller for it, it would have probably been a lot easier that way. But then again, you might as well just get a PlayStation Portable version if you want the full expansion of the game. But anyways, because like, you know, it's a handheld and it's got all the extra content and it looks pretty good, even though graphics aren't everything. But anyways, I digress. So Tales of Phantasia, or Te Ruzu Obu Phantasia in Japanese, is a role-playing video game, well, Japanese role-playing video game, developed by, and this is going to be important too, so keep this in mind, Team Wolf. Or Wolf Team, if you want to go by the correct pronunciation. If you really think about it, Tales of Phantasia was actually, well, the whole Tales teams were divided into three teams. There was Team Wolf, there was Team Silveron, and then there was Team Destiny. Now, I forget exactly which ones were which, but they were pretty much responsible for translating which Tales games, and I think it was Team Destiny was really the reason why like some of the Tales games weren't localized outside of Japan. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. There's games like Tales of Rebirth, the remakes of Tales of Destiny Director's Cut, Tales of Destiny 2, the real Tales of Destiny 2, not Tales. If you have like the PS1 version or the PSP version of Tales of Eternia, that's actually not Tales of Destiny 2. The one the real Tales of Destiny 2 is the true sequel to Tales of Destiny in the original. He's so if you have a character by the name of Kyle as the main character, then you have the real Tales of Destiny 2 copy. It's for the PSP, or for the PS2 and the PSP. Although I personally prefer the PSP version because that version has more content in it. Well, I'll explain that as we go, why there's like a little pattern with the Tales series. But anyways, so it was developed by Team Wolf as the first title in the Namco's Tales series, which is now Namco Bandai, or Bandai Namco if you want to go by the English translations, or nowadays at least. Released for the Super Famicom in December 1995. It was later ported to a number of other platforms, including a Japanese exclusive version of the PlayStation 1 or PSX version in December 1998, and the GBA version, which was released outside of Japan, and the only version that was ever announced for it in August 2003, followed by the English release for the first time in North America and Europe in March of 2006. A PlayStation Portable remake known as Tales of Phantasia Full Voice Acting Edition, or sorry if my pronunciation in Japanese is wrong, but Te Ruzu Obu Phantasia Furu Bo Isu Edition. Yeah, I'm actually getting better at Japanese, but anyways, following in September of 2006, featuring full voice acting during all the story scenes, which was later introduced with further enhancements which was later included with furthering enhancements as part of Tales of Phantasia Nariki Dungeon X in July 2010. I have not actually played the Nariki version. Nariki Dungeon X version, yeah. I have not played that version yet. The game's producers have been they've been giving it like different genre names, like the Legendary RPG, Densetsu no RPG, meaning with the PlayStation version with full voice acting giving with mockery, to the Legendary RPG with voices, and it's essentially like, you know, they're talking about the Japanese version, like what the name of it is. And, you get what it is. It's Tales of Phantasia, the different enhanced boards. The game was originally developed by Toon Wolf Team, or Team Wolf. It was written and programmed by Yoshiharu Nada. So Gotanada. Sorry. Designed by Masaki Norimoto and scored by, which means the music in this case, Motoi Sakuraba, which he's very well known. Personally, if you ask me, I think, you know, if you want to kind of go a little bit further, Motoi Sakuraba is the guy that did the Golden Sun music, the Dark Souls series, the whole most of the Tales series, if not majority of it. We should just say like 90% of it at least. He's also done the Star Ocean series, which is another series we'll get into very shortly. Let's see here. He has done so many games, you'd be surprised. So yeah. Scored by Shinji Tamura and Rota Furuya. And the character designs were created by the artist Kosuke and Fujishima. A short anime based off the game called Tales of Phantasia. The animation was released in 2004, and that was also in English. Now, the battle system of Tales of Phantasia is in a linear motion battle style, or LMBS. The game is played out on a two-dimensional terrain that usually stretches under than a single screen width, so the screen can scroll to the left or right depending on where the characters and opponents are related. LBMS contains a pause menu during the battles, which lets the player select a spell or item. As in some fighting games, it's possible to assign items or combinations to specific buttons as shortcuts or quick actions, as the opponent in other turn-based systems where the player controls the individual actions of every party member. In the LBS system, the player can only direct controls one main character. Other characters in the party can be set to passive mode, defend only, active mode, attack, computer control, or the player can often force the other characters to move or use a spell from the pause menu, like shortcuts, or like Tales of Symphonia and all the other Tales games, so I'll do that. Like I was saying though, like Motoi Sakuraba, like some of his best work is like Tales of Rebirth, but that game was never localized, for example. And there's a lot of other ones too. We'll get into that. Let's see what else. For the titles that allow multiplayer, the other party members can be controlled with other human players. Okay, so plot, the characters. You have Cress Albene, or Kuresu Arubenin. So, sorry. The main character of Tales of Phantasia is a 17-year-old swords master from a small village who grew up with his best friend Chester, a natural warrior who says that he learned the way of fighting from his father. He otherwise has an earnest and caring individual who develops romantic feelings for Mint. He is voiced by Takeshi Kusao in the Japanese version, Robert Sonos in the English version, the GBA version. You have Chester Burklight, or Chesuta Bakuraito, is a 17-year-old archer and Chris's hometown friend, highly devoted to his friends and family. He has a one-track mind and a tendency to rush into situations without thinking of consequences. He is voiced by Takeshi Kusao in the Super Famicom version, and Ken Tarao Itou for all the other Japanese appearances, and Peter Von Golm in the English Game Boy Advance version. That name rings a bell, if I'm not mistaken. You have Mint Adenado, how do you pronounce that? Minto Adonedo is the 17-year-old priestess and daughter of a famous clerk who's like a white mage of healing spells. She commits powerful healing spells and possesses a strong sense of duty and courage that overwrites all otherwise quiet and modest personality. She is voiced by Satomi Kuroji in the Super Famicom version, and Junko Iwato in all the other versions. No, it's Iwato, not Iwato. Sorry about that. And all the other Japanese versions, and Lynn Harris for all the other English Game Boy Advance versions, and Klaus S. Fester or Kurasu Suta is a 29-year-old man with the knowledge of spirits. With the aid of magical rings, he is able to summon spirits after defeating them. He lives with a woman named Mirato Ruin, who helps him with the research into magic. He is voiced by Kazuhiko Inoue in all the other Japanese versions, and Peter Von Golm in the English versions. Again, that name rings a bell, but I just forget who he is, though. The Game Boy Advance version. Archie Klen, Ache Kurain in the Japanese version, is a 17-year-old half-elf magic user. She has a broomstick to both fly and wield as a weapon. It's characteristic as a bright, airy personality that masks her years of discrimination due to her mixed heritage. And in case you're not familiar with the whole Tales series, this is another part of the story. I'll probably explain this in a separate video, but just kind of throwing this out there. There's a reoccurring theme, like half-elves. Humans and half-elves have been, like, they could never, no, elves and humans could never get along, and the half-elves are always stuck in between, so what ends up happening is they were banished. If you play Tales of Symphonia, the game, I won't spoil the whole story, but Tales of Symphonia being like a 4,000-year-old prequel to Tales of Phantasia, so 4,000 years before Tales of Phantasia takes place, or 4,000 years before Tales of Phantasia. Tales of Symphonia goes into great detail about the elves and their history and why they can't get along with the humans. And there's one town that's pretty much vanquished. It's like near the end of the game, you go to it, and they'll pretty much tell you like why, like, you know, it's off limits to outsiders as well as half elves, and only like the elven race can get into it. And it plays a huge role. Again, if you haven't played Tales of Symphonia, it's probably regarded as the best Tales game outside of Japan. I don't know what your opinion on it is. Honestly, I think it's a legendary game, but I still think Tales of Rebirth is my favorite. But Tales of Symphonia. But I don't judge games based off one or the other. I like them all. They're really cool games, especially Tales of Phantasia. So, anyways, then we have. Let's see, where do we leave off? She is voiced by Mika Kanai in the Japanese versions. Archie is. And Helen Morse in the English GBA version. Fujibayashi is, or Fujibayashi Suzu, just her name backwards. Because in Japanese they put their last names first and then their first names, which isn't uncommon. Is an 11-year-old ninja and granddaughter of the villager's chef or chief. Originally a non-playable character in the Super Famicom version, and then an optional character, playable character from the PlayStation version onwards. She is voiced by Taeko Kawaka, and in all the Japanese versions, and Lynn E. Paris in the English Game Boy Advance version. Okay, so now the story of the game. The story begins as four heroes are locked away in a battle with the powerful sorcerer king named Daus. Before he can be defeated, Daus can use his magic to travel several years into the future, where he is immediately met by one of the four warrior descendants and three companions. who seal him away with 2 magic pendants. 12 years later, one young man named Cress and Chester return to their village to find it razed to the ground by a dark knight named Mars, whose army kills many of the inhabitants, including Cress's parents, and Chester's sister. While Chester stays behind to bury them. Cress leaves to meet his uncle Olson to help, to reveal that he is being forced to work for Mars before stealing his father's pendant, locking him in jail, quickly escaping with the help of a dying woman, which is Cress and Mint in this case, in a nearby cell. He meets another prisoner, a young priest. Oh, this is her mother, I should say. A young priestess named Mint, who is revealed that the woman was her mother before the two leave for the dungeons. Aqueducts. Well, pretty much the exit. After meeting up with Chester, the party meets Trius D. Morrison, or just Edward Morrison is what they renamed him, one of the 4 heroes who sealed away Daos many years ago. I'm not sure if Edward was really his real name, or if that was just his Japanese name. And so anyway, Edward D. Morrison is in the English version. I know that for a fact. Same guy. He's if you play Tales of Phantasia, he's the one that casts the indignation spell. You'll see it as soon as you start the game. So one of the 4 main heroes who sealed away Daos many years ago, who revealed that their parents were once his comrades, and is shocked to discover that Cress and Mint's pendants were stolen, following him to a nearby Mausolea, which is like an ancient catacomb cemetery that at least I remember anyways. The group encounters Mars just as he uses the pendants to break the seal on Daos' tomb, setting him free. As Mars is killed by the Dark Sorcerer asking for his powers, Edward laments that no force in this time can stop Daos, and he uses magic to send Cress and Mint back in time to seek a mean to do while Chester stays behind to cover their escape. The two arrived 100 years in the past before Daos was intentionally sealed, where the villain is currently waging war with his demon armies against the human kingdoms, learning that only magic can harm them, and they seek aid of a young woman by the name of Archie Colleen, and the summoner named Klaus F. Foster, who accompanies them to Daos' castle after a fierce showdown. Daos escapes again, because when you fight Daos, you got to fight him 3 times. You got to fight him in the past, you got to fight him in the future, and then you got to fight him in the present. And then after that, he dies. Daos escapes once again, and the party finds a way, makes their way to an ancient city called Thor, which is actually underwater, which is really interesting. It's an abandoned city that was sealed away, kind of like the city of Atlantis, that houses a functional time machine to return to the future. Arriving just moments after they left, Cress and his companions join Chester in the fight against Daos. When you fight him again, defeat him for good. However, they are accompanied by a traveler named Harrison from 50 years in the future, who tells them that Daos is now ravaging a war in his time. Using the Thor machine once again, the team arrives at a new period where they meet a new ninja, which is optional in this case, but if you get her, she actually expands the story. Suzu, who accompanies them, except for the original release. After meeting up with a group of elves, Cress obtaining the legendary Eternal Sword, the only thing that can stop Daos from moving in time. Because again, Daos he can time travel, he can shoot lasers out of his hands. He'd pretty much give like Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts a run for his money. The only thing that can stop, and he can levitate too, which is awesome. He has a cape and everything, long hair. The only thing that can stop Daos from moving from time is to travel into his invisible fortress for his final confirmation. After defeating him, the party learns, and this is where the game is a direct sequel to Tales of Phantasia. The party learns from a tree spirit named Martel that he is a visitor from a dying planet called Darius Carlon, whose world was slowly withering away due to the death of its parents. Now again, if you haven't played Tales of Symphonia, apologize for the huge spoiler alert, but in Tales of Symphonia, there's 2 planets. There's Silveron, and then there's Tethe'ala. Now, the way the game works is they don't really tell you about Tethe'ala right away, but you go to Tethe'ala, but you find out that both planets, you were always told that one planet couldn't survive without, one planet had to survive without the other. But as soon as you get towards the end of the game, you realize that was a lie. There is a way that you could save both planets, because what was causing both planets to feud in the first place was another planet that you couldn't see directly because it was hiding in the distance, but it was still within the orbit, was called Darius Carlon. So there's technically 3 planets. So, but by the end of Tales of Symphonia, Darius Carlon goes bye-bye, but Daus came from the planet Darius Carlon, and he is on the he's on Silverant and Tethiala and all that other good stuff. So, let's see where we at. So he was dying of its tree, the source of all mana. So there's a tree called Yggdrasil in this case, the source of all the mana, the blood flow of everything. Attempting to obtain a seed from its planet, the world tree Yggdrasil. Daus instead found its power was fading as well due to the humans' constant misuse of mana-based technology, and decided to wipe them out to save it. So it's kind of like, he was kind of good, but he took the wrong approach. He was pretty much an asshole, but at the same time he wanted to control it for himself too. Kind of like your typical villain. Knows that there's something wrong, no one cares, everybody's like misconcerned about him, but he's still dangerous and all that. So as the party member realizes that by saving their world was doomed, Martel takes pity on their plight and sends a mana seed into space in an attempt to rejuvenate Darius Carlon's tree as Cress and his team return to their proper timeline. But what they do is, after you kill Daus, you can actually, they'll take Daus's dead body and they'll use it, which is actually really interesting. So, development. Okay, so Tales of Phantasia was developed by members of Wolf Team, a studio created by Telent Japan. The story was based on an unpublishing Japanese novel called Tale Phantasia, or Teiru Phantasia, written by the game's total programmer, Yoshiharu Gotanda. The world was primarily based around Norse mythology. Science fiction elements were incorporated, and some of the names were taken from the works of Michael Moorcock and H.P. Lovecraft to accommodate fans of the Western fantasy fiction. Many changes were made to Gotanda's original story, including the title, the characters' names, and the omission of several proposed scenarios. Due to poor experiences with the parenting company, the team sought a different publisher for their title, and after unsuccessful pitching the project to Enix, they secured a publishing contact by Namco. The game includes voice clips during the game and certain story points, as well as an opening theme song sequence. And now this is where I want to stop and point this out. The main theme song is called The Dream That Will Never Die. It's translated in English. However, I'd have to look up the actual name of the song. But this is, okay, so if you play a Japanese game, it's not uncommon that the Japanese games have, like, a Japanese opening song and an ending song at the same time. This, much like Star Ocean, and we're going to get into Star Ocean because I'm going to tell you why, you would find out that this game actually had an opening song, and even though it doesn't have like an animation at the beginning, it's really more of like a, well, at least not like the later versions did have, it's like an opening movie. They had like an opening theme song singing in the background, and they had a demo of the game playing, like all the characters are introduced, except for Daus, anyways, and like Mars, but they pretty much like show you like all the characters and what they're capable of doing and all that. And it was really cool because at the time when most games played out like that, most Japanese video games didn't really start doing Japanese songs, at least until like in the later 90s and all that. So it was really interesting to find that out. Like if you were to play like a Japanese, like imagine playing this for back in the day on the Super Famicom or the Super Nintendo, even though it wasn't released outside. And it was like they actually did that. It wasn't until, like, because a lot of people usually when you think of Japanese RPGs, like Star Ocean 2, for example, you might think, oh, you know, it's got a Japanese opening, but that wasn't until, like, the PlayStation. But no, there were actually Super Nintendo games that had, like, Japanese opening theme songs playing on them, and that was actually pretty cool, because that was ahead of its time for the day and age. So, you know, just throwing that out there. So, which necessarily that uses the high capacity of 48 megabit game cartridge to fit the voice acting into the game. The team used a sound system dubbed with the flexible voice drive, which enabled full recording of both the dialogue and the theme song. The use of the voice acting and no talking point leading up to the game's release. Character design and animation and artwork was handled by manga artists, which is Japanese comic books in this case, Kosuke Fujishima. The linear battle motion, which could also become a mainstay of the series, was inspired by the fighting series, which had become a popular time at the time. During the later stages of development, there were internal conflicts leading to a number of development staff leading. And this is the last sentence I want to mention. Due to development decisions. Now, usually when you think of a lot of people, especially video games nowadays, you would think that, I mean, there is a lot of people that work on video games. When you beat the video games, look at all the names that come up in the staff credits and how they divide, like, the team into what they worked on. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is what I say, and I quote, "The linear battle motion system, which could be a mainstay of the series, was inspired by fighting games, which had become very popular at the time." Now, this is where the last part that's worth noting. During the later stages of development, there were internal conflicts leading to a large number of development staff leaving Team Wolf, or Wolf Team in this case, and establishing an independent development company. So pretty much quitting Namco at this case, or I'm not sure if they came back at some point, but they essentially quit and started their own video game company called Tri-Ace, which T-R-I, you know, all lowercase, dash, and Ace, like capital A-C-E, all one word. So, A-C-E. So, what is Tri-Ace? Well, Tri-Ace later off would go off to make Tales of Phantasia. They felt they could do better, because, you know, Asians, not a stereotype, but, you know, Asians have high expectations. Tales of Phantasia is a great game, it really is. But there's a lot of people that thought they could do better, and hence Star Ocean was born. And we'll get into that very shortly. So the later versions in August 1998, 1 month before the game series surrounded the second title of Tales of Destiny, Namco announced that it would also release a PlayStation version of Tales of Phantasia, which was available in December, or in Japan, that following December. The remake contains new equipment features including an animated opening sequence produced by Japanese studio Production IG, which pretty much, you know, Productions IG, you'll see it a lot. You see their name a lot, and they're like a big animation company that, you know, you'll see their name in a lot of Japanese RPGs. I've seen their name like quite a lot. They come up quite a lot. So redesigned character sprites and backgrounds, a 3D rendered world map, and a re-recorded character audio to better accommodate the compact disc format. Elements used in Destiny, such as inclusion of animated skits in a modified version of the battle system resembling that is used in Destiny, were added. For the battle system, the team wanted to increase the overall battle speed and combo potential. Fubayashi, a non-playable supporting character in the original release, which was now made a playable as an optional character. Namco Home Tech translation producer Aki Kozu explained that the company eventually passed out an English version releasing due to timing and marketing demand, which is not uncommon. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to make another video explaining why certain games are never localized, like top 10 reasons why some video games have never been localized. It actually makes a lot of sense, actually, why some of these game designers, because Namco makes a lot of games, and maybe they might not make the best decisions, but every company, especially you want to think that every idea is a good idea, but sometimes you'll be you might think like maybe you don't try too hard, or maybe you think, oh, I could have pushed this game out there, but there's just so much people can do, and that's just it. And the fans, they don't really understand what goes on at these development teams, so you really got to think about this stuff. Like Tales of Phantasia, why wasn't it released when the Super Famicom came out? It was timing and marketing. They wanted to release it, and it's a good thing they did, because if they never would have released the games outside of Japan, hell, we never would have gotten like games like Tales of Destiny, Tales of Rebirth. Well, I mean, we never got Tales of Rebirth, but you get what I'm saying. They never would have had so much confidence in the series if it never would have took off the way it did. Kind of like Pokemon, for example. Even though Pokemon's localized internationally, but you just never know. It just goes on and on and on and on, and you just never know. Anyways, so where did I leave off? As well as the development team being too busy with Tales of Eternia to properly support a localization effort. The team also felt that Eternia was going to be a much better game than Phantasia, and then a better chance of succeeding in the U.S. market. And that's another thing. In the United States version of Tales of Eternia, it's called Tales of Destiny 2. That's not really Tales of Destiny 2. The real Tales of Destiny 2 is not released outside Japan. It's on the PSP and the PSP, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to get back to you on that one if I haven't already. So yeah, and then let's see what else. In May of 2002, Namco and Nintendo entered into a partnership that allowed the two companies to cooperate on an installment of the Star Fox franchise, Star Fox Assault, and for Namco to develop several exclusive titles for Nintendo's GameCube and Game Boy Advance hardware. On one title was Tales of Phantasia, was announced shortly after signing into an original expected date of 2002 of December. Namco first showcased the game in March 2003 and revealed a release date set for June. Eventually granted in it finalized August 2003. 1 month before Tales of Symphonia for the GameCube, which is considered to be the best version, but now that the PS3... Well, what's funny is I have a PS2 version of it's called the best. It's not the original, but it's like the best. Like, it's like something like Japan does after, like, you buy one game and it sells so many copies, then they pretty much the greatest hits, like PS1 games. They do this once they sell so many copies, they reprint them if they decide to, and it's got like the green label. Well, Japan does this version where they have like a yellow title at the top of their game, and it's called the best, and it had Tales of Symphonia. So I own a copy of Tales of Symphonia for the PS2, but then like later on they re-released all the extra content that was on the PS2 version of Tales of Symphonia. They put it on the PS3, and that was also localized outside Japan, so everybody got all the extra content plus more DLC, which is nice because then more people can play the the Japanese version of Tales of Symphonia with all the extra content, which is nice. So we're making progress. Let's see, the Game Boy Advance was based on both the producing versions and including the Japanese Famicom's original opening and two-dimensional world map RAM, and the PlayStation remake character voices and reduce enemy encounter rates and game tweaks. An English language version of Tales of Phantasia was announced for the first time in 2005 by Nintendo Vice President for Sales and Marketing Reggie Fils-Aimé. How do you pronounce his name? Reggie. My body is ready. For release in North America and Europe in March of 2006. In 2006, Namco announced during a press conference that the game was being remade for the PlayStation Portable handheld as Tales of Phantasia full voice acting, and you know how to pronounce that, and would be released the following September. The game remade had all the previous features of the PlayStation and Game Boy Advance, such as all the voice acting for all the story kits, the ability to walk in 8 directions instead of 4, and a brand new Great Shot function featured in the game series. So like a new game plus, essentially. And it made its appearance as a 2006 Tokyo Game Show, along with other Namco Bandai titles shortly after release. In March of 2010, Namco Bandai announced that its upcoming PlayStation Portable role-playing series, Tales of Phantasia, Dungeon X, which is the one I mentioned earlier, including another remake of Tales of Phantasia called Tales of Phantasia X, which is, well, that's actually weird. I didn't hear that one before. It says in March of 2010, Namco Bandai announced that its upcoming PlayStation Portable Tales of Phantasia, and then they would make another remake of Tales of Phantasia called Tales of Phantasia X, Terizu, and it's just Tales of Phantasia X, okay? Produced Tales of Phantasia Cross as a bonus title. The game features much faster, more streamlined battle, spellcasting no longer temporary pauses on the action screen, allowing more attacks to occur simultaneously. A cell phone port of Tales of Phantasia GBA version was released in 2010. The iOS version was released in 2013. The version is free to play, but it's different from versions removing some save points and heavily on in-app purchase on May 9th. Okay, so personally, from what I understand, I think the best version of Tales of Phantasia to get would probably be Tales of Phantasia Cross, if I'm not mistaken. I had to look that up. That actually looks really interesting. I never even heard of that when it came out. I'll have to look into that. Don't quote me on it. A cell phone port of the GBA version was released on 2010 iOS. Okay. But it is different from the other versions. The English version of the game was discontinued on August 28th, 2014. Okay, so on May 2009, May 29, 2014, the Japanese iOS version was discontinued after the game cannot be started or played. That's interesting. I'll have to read into that. So, audio. Alright, so this is the music, the theme song. The music of Tales of Phantasia was composed by Motoi Sakuraba, Shinji Tamura, and Rota Furuya. I mentioned their names earlier. With PlayStation release following the featuring song Namco titles such as Rally X, written by Nobuyuki Onogi, and Ridge Racer, and Shinji Hosoe. It features the opening song Yume wa Owa Ranai, which is The Dream Will Never Die. The Dream Will Not Die, performed by Yukari Yoshida in the Super Famicom version, in the Japanese Game Boy Advance version, and Yomi in the PlayStation version. Yoshida would perform the Japanese version's ending song, Hoshiyo Sora ni, which is The Star in the Sky. Namco would replace the opening theme songs in the English GBA release with an instrumental piece. Now the reason why is because I guess I don't think that people like Japanese pop music, which, I'll be honest with you, I would keep it in the game anyways because it's pretty damn good. Although the original Super Famicom did not receive a commercial soundtrack at the time of its release, an official album was released for the remake, and I actually own it, so May of 1999 by Victor Entertainment. The song features 77 discs across 2 discs. A number of radio drama albums were produced, along with the 3 album set called Drama CD, Tales of Phantasia, or Dorama CD, Tales of Phantasia, by Movik, released between May and July 1999. A 2-volume set drama CD, Tales of Phantasia, an anthology. There was also Dorama CD, Tales of Phantasia, Anthology, was released in the following year between January March 2000, just 2000, 2000, as well as a standalone album called Tales of Phantasia, Chara Talk CD, Panic World, or in other words, I promise this is the last one, Teriruzu Obu Phantasia Karata Toku CD, Paniku wa Rudo, released in 2001 of December. Alright, so books and manga. So Famitsu Bunko, which is a Japanese publishing series in Japan. It's huge in Japan. I've heard about them many times. Published a series of relative novels written by Sara Yajima in 1999 to 2000. The series contains several colored books. The 2 volumes of contain 7 books. 2-volume Haru Kanarujiko, which is Faraway Space-Time, Shinku no Hitomi, Crimson Eyes, Kon Peki no Kizuna, which is the Azuru, which is blue in this case, light blue, Bonds, Kohaku no Kariro, Amber Corridor, and Ruri no Yume, which is the Rumi Dream. Ruri Dream. Other books contains the novel Tales of Phantasia, The Untold History, written by Roruji Yasuri and published by Dengeki Bunko in 1999. And Tales of Phantasia Makken Nin Jou, written by Run Osuke Kingetsu, which is published by Muvik in 2000. And a manga adaptation of Tale of the Game, simplifying the title Tales of Phantasia, was serialized in the Kakokawa Shoten's magazine, starting its first issue on 7th August 2008, marking the first manga adaptation of the game in the 12 years following the game's release. It was also compiled by Tankobon in 2009, which each version of the game was accompanied by the original official game guide, along with several illustration books, which isn't uncommon. If you buy Japanese illustrations, chances are it's in good shape and it will come with the game. So the OV, Tales of Phantasia, the animation, is an adoption OVA of the game. The anime consists of 30-minute episodes in Japan from November 2000 to February 2006, and developed by Aeon, in America in January 2007. VRs are shared with the same of the games. They're animated by Akis and directed by Takuo Tominaga and Shinjiro Mogi. The plot of the VOA is generally based on the game's plot, but there are several details in the anime that are not in the game, namely additional scenes and dialogue. However, the episodes themselves focus on the party's encounter with Dallas and scenes involving the Tree of Life and elves, omitting a great portion of the story told in the original game. The opening theme song, Yume no Hei, the ends of a dream, and ending Pre-Ere, both were composed by Mika Watanabe and Ikuko Noguchi, lyric by Tomo, and performed by Masame Suzuki. Some related products of OVA were released in Japan in 2005. Foster Works released an original Tales of Phantasia, the animation original soundtrack. It contains 49 tracks and spans from 73 minutes to 15 seconds. The company has released a series of drama CDs in 2006. It contains 6 CDs which each playable character of the game, Ichi Jinsha also released the book Tales of Phantasia the animation art graphy in 2006, which features animations and illustrations of the anime of the game's characters. Special talking between voice actors of Cress and Mint, along with an interview of the game character Kosuke Fujishima. Okay, so a sequel of Tales of Phantasia, Narikiri Dungeon, was released for the Game Boy Advance, or Game Boy Color, or GBC in this case, on November 10, 2000. It was the first game of the Narikiri Dungeon series. A remake of the sequel, Tales of Phantasia, Narikiri Dungeon X, was released on August 5th, 2010. So yeah, okay, I guess I was wrong. Tales of Phantasia, if you want to play the original Tales of Phantasia, get the full voice acting for the PSP, not the Nariki X series. I thought that's what it was just because, but that's my fault. The original Super Famicom release of the game received a 30 out of 40. This is a reputation, by the way, by a Japanese weekly Famitsu magazine based on the individual review scores of 8 to 7 to 6 to 9. Readers of the magazine would later declare the game to be their favorite Namco title of all time in the August 2003 poll. Game fans pan of the 3 reviewers scored it 90, 86, 82, and 100, with one of the reviewers including it as the best RPG I've played in Japanese on the Super Famicom. Sales of the title were slow during its debut month, which the sales producer Makoto Yoshizumi, there's a D in there, so it's like Yoshizumi, contributed for being released as the nearing of the sale of Tama's NX's popular Dragon Quest VI would sell a total of 212,000 copies in the region, with the PlayStation remake slightly slower than Famitsu in 1998. It would also go on to sell around 769,000 copies in Japan, with 2006 with the PlayStation full voice acting would sell around 136,000 copies. 150,000 of download of the iOS was reached in 5 days. The GBA version, the North American release, marked the English language appearance of Tales of Phantasia, which was marked positive with in the West with an average of 73, 76 out of 100 for Metacritic, while websites such as GameSpot tell that the game distinguishing itself from the role-playing titles with its base combat and its overall relied to too many battle sequences dragged on and slowing the pace down in the game. Well, technically speaking, I can understand that a lot of people don't have patience for a lot of games like that. But really, if you think about it, though, that's what makes a JRPG what it is, a long game. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'd rather have a game that goes on for like hours than games that don't at all, if that makes sense. So, in IGN, they usually like to kind of throw some, bad reviews every which way. Commented that the system was unrefined when the later versions of the game, such as Tales of Symphonia and the GameCube, had graphics and quality that relatively well 11 years after its original release. And yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you got to understand though, the GameCube was, I don't really know how much more powerful it was compared to the or where it was compared to the PS1, but apparently, yeah, the GameCube had faster load times than the original PlayStation. But you also have to take into consideration that the GameCube was, well, yeah, it was more powerful than the PlayStation 1 because, it could play discs that were 1.8 to 1.9 gigabytes. I think it was like 1.86 or something like that. The little small discs that you could get on a GameCube. And the PlayStation 1 could only play up to 700 megabytes worth of CDs. So, technically speaking, the technology was different. You know what I mean? So, to say that the Tales of Symphonia held up well on the GameCube, but it didn't held up well on, if you think about it, like the PS1 version of Tales of Symphonia, as well as like the GBA version, I mean, well, it's a handheld. You can't really compare the handhelds to the GameCube, you know what I mean? It's a different console, So anyways, 11 years of its original release, the site would also call the story of the characters amazing, but its dated design would appeal to the players familiar with the older games in the genre, calling it a love-hate experience. Editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, oh god, similarly remarked it as a games of traditional RPG will long appreciate its long, verified dungeons and excellent real-time battles, and it still has an awful lot of charm to an old game. Euro Magazine Gamer exclusive expressed that the title's late release near the end of the handheld market hurt it, while compared to the similar ports of the Sony's PlayStation Portable and its game's messy interference and rough around edges, localized, paled in comparisons to the Super Famicom's unofficial translation. The game would go to sell approximately 314,000 worldwide on the GBA as of December 2007 to 2012. December 2007 to December 2012. So 5 years. Gamer Informer named Chester one of the best characters of the Tales series due to his struggle throughout the whole story. He comes in terms with the death of his sister, stating that the whole process builds slow, but it's done in a natural way that makes Chester's transformation unbelievable. So the iOS version was, however, panned critics, gathering 35 out of 100, so like a 35%. Post Pocket UK gave it a 4 out of 10, calling it a port with potentially disturbingly high APSs. Touch Arcades gave it a 1 out of 5 regarding the heavy use of an in-app purchase, as well as many of the save points disappearing, mainly the ones near the bosses have been disabled. Digital Spy gave the rating a 2 out of 5, criticizing the overly sensitive and unresponsive controls and how the game autosaves in the middle of a fight. Now, honestly, I don't know why if that is true, why they would want to downgrade it when they just took the exact game and everything was already right in the first place. All they had to do was transport it, but I can understand that. But yeah, that's pretty much Tales of Phantasia nutshell. Here, I'll give you a little more information on it really quick before we kind of wrap this up a little bit. Just a little recap. Tales of Phantasia, the developer was Wolf Team. Publishers was Namco for the Super Famicom version, the PS version, and the GBA. Nintendo did the GBA version in America, so Nintendo of America, and then you had Namco Bandai when the PSP version came out. The director of the game was Eiji, so E-I-J-I, but again, Japanese pronunciation is different in English than it is in Japanese. So Eiji Kikuchi. Producers were Shigeru Yokoyama, Shigeru, yeah. It's not like Shigeru Miyamoto, if that makes sense. So Shigeru Yokoyama. Okay, so the first name was pretty much right then. Okay, so Yoichi and then Haraguchi. Okay, and then you have Kosuke Shima. Sorry. And then you have Yoshiharu Gotanda. And then you have music composers. Motoi Sakuraba, Shinji Tamura, and Yota Furuma. The series is the Tales. Platforms were Super Famicom, PlayStation, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation Portable, and iOS cell phone. What I think is really interesting, though, really worth noting, is if you're not familiar, there's people who actually make what is known as refurbished copies of the game. So you could have like Tales of Phantasia and all that in it's like written in a sort of like there's people that took the Super Famicom version, took the translation patch, and they redid the patch. They refurbished the copies. They made their own version of the game. which is actually really cool. So it's like they put it in English. You can play it on Super Nintendo if you wanted to. So Tales of, okay, and then we have the release date: Super Famicom, December 15th, 1995. PlayStation, December 23, 1998. September 28th, 2000. Re-release, I should say. Game Boy Advance, March 1 in Japan. Japan for all the other first three. Japan, August 1, 2003. North America, March 6, 2006. EU, North America, or Europe in this case, March 31st, 2006. Australia, April 13, 2006. PlayStation Portable version. Japan, August 6, 2006. Japan, August 9, 2007. Re-release. Cell phone, Japan, March 17, 2010. iOS, September 24, 2003. Japan, 13. August, or North America, January 23rd, 2004. Genre is a role-playing video game, single player. But anyways, my honest opinion on Tales of Phantasia. I want to say a few things. I actually love this game. It's really great. It's the first Tales game. It also, again, because the one thing that's really well notable about this game would go on to inspire Team Wolf to form Tri-Ace Production, and then what they did was they decided to make Tales of Phantasia, and then they would go make Star Ocean for the Super Famicom, which was another really great game, which we will get into. Really good. So Tales of Phantasia, really great game. If you haven't played it, one of the best Tales games. If you haven't played it, I recommend playing the PlayStation Portable version. Personally, I would rank the game I know a lot of people might say that it does have flaws, but if you can overlook some of the flaws, it's essentially like a 9 out of 10. I would give it. It's very, very good for the first Tales game. It sold well. It's actually got a really, again, it was inspired by another story, but it was really cool, like how they came up with what they did. This was actually a really, really good series that, it's really, you don't have to just grow up with it, but it's you can definitely, once you play this game a little bit, it kind of makes you see things in a different perspective that hasn't really been done before. It didn't create a lot of things that hasn't already been done before, but it's the story and the music. It's pretty good. It pushed the Super Famicom to its limits, and it kind of actually gave people another reason. Many years later, again, if it wasn't for Tales of Phantasia, we wouldn't have Star Ocean. We wouldn't have other Tales games. It wouldn't inspire Namco to make more games in that series, rather. So, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was very informational. I got all this off Wikipedia because it's more organized, and most of the information is just there, so I can pretty much just, aside from the mistakes I might have made, this is just to give you an idea. The link can be found in the description if you're interested in reading about this. It's pretty much just kind of giving you an idea of the history of this game. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.